Good morning, nature lovers, and welcome to Suburban Stone Age. Today's green project is talking about how we did our DIY backyard pond. This pond was put in 2016, so it's 3 years old now, but we wanted to go back in time and show you the process of how we selected the site, gathered the materials, created the pond, and then what it looks like today. The process begins with site selection. We chose a relatively flat area in the back of the yard, and for us, we knew it was going to be important to use this pond water for irrigation, so we wanted it to be uphill from most of the plants that it was going to water. Also, we wanted a place that was relatively free of tree roots and stones. Once we had a site in mind, we went over to the local building supply store to get ideas for what types of materials we could use. We settled on rounded river rocks for most of the base, but we also tried to use native materials as much as possible, such as stones from the yard and some logs that we had in the landscape already. We had the materials, we had the site selected. Now it's time to do the work. So we began by excavating the contours of the pond. We used the dirt from underneath the pond to build up the walls, so that would increase the volume of the pond. The larger the better in the space that we had allocated. Once we had the contours dug and the walls built up, it was time to add the geotextile. This is the lining that goes under the liner and protects the pond liner from sharp edges, punctures, and tree roots. When the water goes in, it presses down and is quite heavy. Additionally, we have dogs that like to play in the pond, so we wanted that extra layer of protection for the pond liner to make this project last as long as possible. Now it was time to add the pond liner. We used a 45 mil EPDM liner that had a 20-year warranty on it and was safe for fish and plants. We invested in this pond liner because we went through all this work to build it. We really wanted it to last, and we didn't want it to leach anything toxic into the water that might harm the fish or plants that were going to be living in there. Now it was time to add decor. We used some of the large river rocks that we had bought, plus some of the native stones, to line the banks, add stability, and add some variation. Also, we filled in the bottom with gravel. This will help fill in the low spots. It will provide a substrate for the plant roots to grow and will protect the liner from UV radiation from the sun. Finally, we added a cement pipe at the lowest spot in the pond. This provided a place for fish to hide in case there were predators, and also it made a patch of cool, shady water where they could rest during the winter. Time to start filling the pond with water. We added as much rainwater as we could from our rain barrels that we had collected over the winter, and then filled it up with tap water, which we dechlorinated. We estimated this pond to be between 300 and 500 gallons. So there's quite a bit of water in here. It's a great reservoir for water for irrigation and also in case of earthquakes, which is a real threat here in Southern California. Once the pond was full, it was time to trim off the excess liner and add gravel around the edges and finish it up with some driftwood and additional river rocks and native rocks. We added some logs in there for additional habitat and some variety, and the pond was finished. As time went on, we added a variety of plants, both native and non-native, plus added a few fish, being careful though not to overstock. We just started with some very simple feeder goldfish and also got mosquito fish, which were provided free from our county to help control pests. It wasn't long before all sorts of wildlife started to enjoy the pond. We had dragonflies, birds, lizards, bees would come and drink from the water, not to mention all the aquatic life that just blossomed in this new habitat. And here we are, 3 years later. The pond is still rocking it. It's provided such an important benefit to all the wildlife in the yard, plus irrigation for our garden, plus a tremendous amount of enjoyment for us humans. I hope you enjoyed this video on our backyard pond and how we built it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I'd love to know about it. Thanks very much, and we'll see you on the next video.